What's up everyone, it's Sky Journalist, and today's video I'll be talking about cinematic movements. So I'll be giving you 8 cinematic movements in this video. All you need to do now is for you to subscribe if you have not subscribed, like if you have not liked, and stay to the end of this video for you to gain more information about cinematic movements. So if you move the camera at all, you communicate something to your audience, and every movement of the camera communicates a message and emotion to your audience. So you have to take advantage of every single movement to deliver the right emotion. Note, before we go into this video more deeply, this video is not on every single type of camera movement, like a push-in shot or a pull away shot or a crane shot, but this video is about the 8 steps you need to take in order to create cinematic movements. So if you take this 8 steps that I'm about to show you, I promise you your project will look 1,000 times better, even if you have a cell phone starting off with. So the very first step that will improve your project faster than you can imagine is to avoid handheld. I am not trying to say don't use handheld, but I am only trying to say don't use handheld when it's not necessary. Some projects require more of a handheld look for more greediness in a certain style, but not handheld we are talking about. This kind of handheld should never be used in filmmaking career, and this is probably the most common mistake I see beginner filmmakers make. They grab their camera, click record and start filming. I did it when I was starting out, and probably you did too. So the point of your project is to make the audience forget that they are looking through the lens of a camera. You want them to get sucked into the project and think that they are just watching this unfold in front of them. If you pick up your camera and start shooting with this literally handheld look, it is just a constant reminder to the audience that there is a cameraman holding the camera. To be honest, no movement is better than bad handheld movement. Putting your camera on a tripod is going to look better than an handheld shot. Step 2. Zooming, and why to never do it. A push in and pull away shots are where you physically move the camera, but a zoom in other hand is whereby you zoom your camera towards the subject. Now the problem with a zoom and actually filming the zoom is that it feels very artificial and reminds the audience that there is a camera present. Now some projects are great for zooms, like The Office. The Office is a TV show that's supposed to be about a documentary team following these people around in their daily life. Since you already know that zooms don't feel out of place because you are watching it through someone who is following them with a camera. The Bond movies are also a good example. Paul Greengrass zooms all the time because it is about a man constantly running from the government, and it gives the feeling that someone is always watching him. You zoom, it reminds the audience that there is a cameraman holding the camera, and for that reason it tends to take the audience out of the moment and remind them that they are watching a movie or watching a promo or watching whatever project you are making. When your character is supposed to be alone with nobody around and your camera zooms, it feels like you are watching a reality TV show. Zooming in on your project should be avoided at all costs. You are going to be tempted to do two things: go handheld and zoom. I have seen it countless times, and that's why I made a point to say no handheld and no zoom, because avoiding these two things will improve your project. So the next step is motivated movements. We have motivated lighting and also we have motivated movements. Before we go deep, what is motivated movement? Motivated movement is the movement that is motivated by something else in the frame. Now, some movements just look fine out of the blue, but some movements seem jarring and take your audience out of the movement. If the camera just moves for no reason, motivated movements will completely fix this. If we are going to move from one person to another instead of just moving back and forth, which can seem jarring, we could follow another person to our destination. This is what is called motivated movement. They use this many times in longer takes, and it's really add a lot. Sometimes the person only job in the scene is to allow the camera follow them even if they are just in the background. Think if we add this shot without the person working to move the camera, the movement would just seem jarring and out of place for the camera to just move with no real reason. For example, is we have two people having a conversation. Instead of moving back and forth to where it kind of feel awkward and out of place, we could have them tossing a ball back and front and following the ball. This feels more natural because the movement is motivated and you don't necessarily need to focus on the ball when it is moving and make it a subject in the scene, but just move in the direction with it, and it will seem more natural. If there wasn't motivation for the movement, it would feel out of place. So the next step is rack focusing. What is rack focusing? A rack focus is when your focus is on something really far away and then you rack the focus wheel all the way until you focus on something really close, or vice versa. This has been used in Hollywood for ages and can be used in your project to communicate a message. The reason I am making a point about this is because back in the days, rack focusing was pretty much impossible without some sort of adapter. When DSLR came out, racking focus was super easy and available to everyone. So when you first pick up your DSLR and you are first getting into the film making industry, you have a tendency to want to do that all time because it looks so cool. I mean, a typical Hollywood movie might have maybe one rack focus shot in the entire film. So I know it might seem like a small and simple step, but I have seen it over and over again when beginner filmmakers rack focus almost every single shot just because they can. So please don't do it. So the next step is plan out your movement. Before you press record, like I said in the beginning of this video, every movement communicates a message. If you want cinematic movement in your project, you need to know what motion you want to create before you move the camera. If you just show up at your camera, do all these crazy moves for no reason, the audience will be confused. Handheld may communicate tension and anxiety, while a tripod shot may communicate calmness and control. If you use a deterring handheld shot at the wrong time, the audience can feel confused as to what you are trying to communicate. Before you ever start filming, determine what emotion you want, and that will determine what camera movement you need. And the reason I am putting this step in this video is because if you really do want cinematic movement for your project, they don't just fall into your hand. You need to plan them and determine what movement you want for the scene. Going back to the handheld and tripod movement, in this scene, one character is freaking out while the other character is calm and under control. They have an handheld shot for the one freaking out and a tripod shot for the one that is under control. They don't come up with this idea on the spot. This was planned out beforehand to create an emotion. In The Insider, when this conversation takes a turn in a completely different direction, the director breaks the 180-degree rule and moves the camera to the other side, giving us a sense of awkwardness and also a visual representation of the change that is taking place in the dialogue. All these are planned out, so don't move the camera for absolutely no reason. And also move the camera for a reason. If the camera moves to the other side during this conversation, yet nothing changed in the conversation, it will be extremely distracting and make no sense. So have purpose in your camera movements and plan them out according to the emotion. So the next step is shoot for the edit. One of the most popular things right now are cinematic transition, especially with a gimbal. It is everywhere. But if you are wanting your transition more cinematic, you need to plan them out. Don't just start filming and think that you will add some preset transition in the edits. Use your gimbal to create those cinematic transitions. If you want to do a whip pan transition, start your shoot and at the end of the take, pan quickly to the left. Then on your next gimbal shot, start with panning quickly to the left and then it is back into normal. With one end with the pan, with the other starts with the pan. Once in the edit, you can now blend those shots to get it seamless because you plan it out beforehand. If you do not plan it out and then you decide to add a preset transition, it does not look nearly as good as if you planned it before and actually move the camera. So take your gimbal or whatever it is and film your shot with the transition in mind. So the next step is smooth movement. If your camera movements are not smooth, the cinematic quality of them will be completely gone. So please invest in a stabilizer. Please, you can't get smooth movement without something to make your camera smooth. And also, just because you have a gimbal or a glide cam does not mean you will automatically have smooth footage. I see many filmmakers purchase a gimbal but still have shaky movements. Is the reason because they are lazy? But the truth is that the reason is not because they are lazy, and the reason why it's are still shaky is because they don't just know how to use it. This video is titled Cinematic Movement. So based I am a good Samaritan, I will give you 2 quick ways to make sure that your shots are smooth when you use a gimbal. Before we go on, make sure you subscribe before I tell you the next step. The first way is balance your gimbal. With a glide cam, if it is not balanced, it's going to be impossible to film with. But with a gimbal, even if it is not balanced, it's going to look like it is ready to go. And because of that reason, many people are not getting smooth shots. Be sure to take time and balance your gimbal and your glide cam properly. And the second way is the way you walk. Getting smooth shots does depend on how you walk, and walk like a low half is completely separated from your upper half. Let your leg absorb everything without letting it get to your upper half. This is especially used when moving quickly or running, since you tend to have more movement on your shot. Mentally, you have to train yourself to naturally squat when you walk because you are not used to doing that. This shot was taken on a gimbal while walking normal. It does not look like it is on a gimbal, and that is because it all depends on the way you walk. So the next step is depth. We can't tell that the background is moving, but you are really able to see just how much we are moving, especially if it is a wider shot. One way to create depth and show your movement better is to simply put something into your foreground to show that movement. It adds an entirely new level to our movement and it allows us to have a lot of depth. Both of these shots are moving from left to right, but the other one with the foreground object looks more appealing by adding depth and also show us the audience how much we are moving. And it does not have to be anything large like a person or an object. It could be something small like leaves, plants coming from behind something to reveal the subject. There are many things to do to have depth, but placing something in front of your camera to either shoot through or move around can greatly affect the cinematic quality. It's add depth, it's add another element to your image, and if your subject is on a flat wall and you can't move him away from that wall. The best thing to do is to add depth. It is to put something in the foreground. It takes the image to an entirely new level. So we come to the end of this video, and I hope these 8 steps have really helped you guys to create cinematic movements. Please subscribe, like, comment, and share to your friends. Thank you.